I'm about to tell you something that would sound a little bit weird to most Christians. I think you should read the Book of Mormon. I think you should read the Koran. I think you should read the Bhagavad Gita. Why do I think you should read these books? Well, because I think it's important for you to know the difference between the true faith that leads to a relationship with the Creator of the universe and the false ones. I think you should be able to have an answer when the Mormon missionaries come to your door. I think you should be able to have an intelligent conversation about the Quran with your neighbor who is a Muslim. Now, before I go any further, I will say this. You need to know the Bible. Not just have read it once or twice. You need to know the Bible. And so, if you don't know the Bible as a whole, have a good grasp on the entire story, Genesis through Revelation, you don't have to have every single detail, but you ought to know the Bible in general. You ought to know what's taught. You ought to know why we believe what we believe. But then you should read these other books so you can see what's wrong with them and compare them to the Bible. And you should be able, like I said, to be able to talk intelligently with the Mormon missionaries that come to your door, or your Muslim neighbor, or your Hindu neighbor, or any other religion. Now, if you don't have time, you can always listen to them as an audiobook, or you can get all this stuff on YouTube and listen to it for free. But if you're not only to talk intelligently to your neighbor and the missionaries, but also if you're going to evangelize these people, if you're going to try to show them why what they believe is wrong in a manner that is intelligent and loving at the same time and logical, then you need to know what the difference is, and you need to not be surprised. You also need to know what's in these books so that you know where in the scripture it says those things are wrong, that you can go, no, that's not what God said. So, number one, get grounded in the scriptures, in the Bible first, but then read these other books or listen to them. And you don't have to do all of them. I'm not asking you to become an expert on world religions. What I am saying is this. If you live a few blocks from a mosque and you have neighbors that are Mormons, or not Mormons, Muslims, then you ought to be able to talk about the Quran and where it contradicts the Bible. If you live in a city that has a substantial Mormon population, or you have a friend or relative who is a Mormon, and by the way, you need to know that when talking to them, they prefer not to be called Mormons anymore, or they prefer to be called LDS. It's an example of what I'm talking about. You need to know a little bit about them. LDS is short for Latter-day Saints. My landlord, the guy that owns the building where one of my businesses, I have a warehouse that I'm renting, is LDS. Lately, I have been coming in contact with a bunch of LDS people on Facebook for some reason. God just keeps bringing me these people. So I need to know something about them. If you live in a community where there is a large Hindu presence, you need to know about what they believe. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that we take these books as scripture, but we do need to know what's going on. And you're saying, well, where in the Bible does it say that we should read these other books? Well, it doesn't, but there are indicators that it could be helpful. The Apostle Paul quotes Greek philosophers. That's not from the Bible. He uses it to spread the gospel to them. In the Old Testament, the Baal cycle is quoted. Does that mean God approved of his people worshiping Baal? No, of course not. It means that God's people were aware of the religions around them. We should know what the enemy is teaching so that we can combat the enemy. We can talk to these people intelligently and lovingly and tell them why they have the wrong God. And it's important that they come to know the only true and living God. So, if you start running into some of these people, you might want to think about reading one of their books.